Hello Whiskers! Welcome to another video. Today we're going to be reviewing Traitor Queen, the second book in the Bridge Kingdom series. I did a review of the first one if you want to go check that out, but this is the second one and it's just go, 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 go from the very beginning. So I'm going to get right into that. If you want some context on the first book, as I said, go watch the other video. I'm not going to waste much time on it here. So, starting with the genre, this is a dark fantasy. The previous book had a lot more romance in it, but now the characters and relationships have been established and we're getting going. We are going right into it right away, and it's gritty and it's life and limb, and there are some really dark parts. I don't think this can classify as YA anymore. So yeah. Then, style and pacing. As I said, it is very, very fast paced. The whole book is essentially the final fight scene, with a little bit of time for preparation, but very, very few moments of respite. They're being chased, people are being killed, life and limb and blood and guts, and it's just go, go, go the whole time. There is no rest for these characters, and they endure hell with no breaks in between. Not really. I really love the struggle. These characters endured blistering winds and scorching deserts. They climbed to the highest bloody room of the tallest bloody tower, and they kept going. There are limits to what these human bodies can endure, and these characters get pushed to every limit. How much heat can a human body endure? How much sunburn? How many days without water? How many days without food? How many days without rest? How much trauma? It keeps pushing the characters and trying to get them to break, hammering down on them. And the struggle is just really powerful, and it's a really strong drive, and it just keeps going, and it's really it captivates you while you read it, and I love that. Then for the vinegar, Aaron, he's a grumpy boy in this book. Does he have reason to be? Yes, he really does. But I don't like grumpy men. They're no fun to be around. And Aaron endures trauma, and it makes sense that he's so grumpy, but we don't actually go through like his emotions with him. He's just not happy. And it's not necessarily bad, but it was my least favorite part of the book. So, in saying that, I think it's very obvious what I've thought of this book. 5 stars. At the end of the Bridge Kingdom, the stakes were really high. The Bridge Kingdom cannot survive this. It cannot survive Laura. She has brought the Bridge Kingdom to its knees, and now she's trying to save it. The stakes were sky high, and this book just doubles down on it. A lot more people were at risk than you really thought possible for these types of books, and there's a real cost to the mistakes that Laura made in the first book. And there's a real cost to the relationships that she's hurt in the process. So I really, really loved it. This book, as I said, is a lot more action-packed and a lot less romance than the previous book. And I was really satisfied by this book. That's as much as I can say without getting into spoilers. So this is your warning. So as I said, the stakes are high. Laura has brought the Bridge Kingdom to its knees. She is sitting in a tavern somewhere drinking, hearing about Moradrina, still starving, hearing about Ithacana, who is dying. Most of the islands have been taken over by Moradrinian soldiers. Just the British Kingdom is falling apart, and they have the last safe haven, the last safe island, and they're all in there, and they're starving and heading out to fight. And Laura hears the news that Aaron has been captured. So obviously, upon hearing this news, Laura has to do something. She loves this man, and she calls this. So she does. She calls in Anna. She heads all the way out to the Bridge Kingdom on a rinky-dink boat. She reaches Anna, and she enlists the help of the Ithacanians, who are obviously distrustful. And she also enlists the help of her long-lost sisters, who she manages to track down. Meanwhile, Aaron is suffering. He's not being tortured because they want to use him as ransom. No. Laura's father is capturing each one of the friends that have attempted to rescue Aaron. And he's torturing them right in front of him. They're being cut and burned and mangled, destroyed, and then hung up. So Aaron sits every day in a courtyard in the sun, watching his friends' bodies rot. And it takes a toll on him, and he tries to get the message out that they should just stop coming, stop trying to save me, stop dying. And he starts to contemplate suicide, because if he's dead, there's no one for them to die for anymore. They wouldn't be tortured anymore because he would no longer be here to witness that torture. So, yeah, Aaron is going through some things. And, yeah. Laura, on the other hand, is busy working on the escape plan. And she has the help of Aaron's grandmother, Nana, and the harem, who are still pissed that the king stole their daughters away from them, and everybody works together to help Aaron escape. But they don't live happily ever after. Then they flee Moradrina, but Aaron is weakened from his time in prison, and his soul is crushed to a certain extent. He's not completely broken, but he's damaged, and you can understand why. He is also very distrusting and angry at Laura. She caused this. It was her fault. Everybody knows this was her fault. And soon they're chased into the desert. And Laura is the little cockroach. She survives the desert. She drags Aaron through a sandstorm, covering his eyes with cloth and leaving her own eyes exposed to the wind and the weather and the sand. And they reach her old school. They reach the place where she grew up with her sisters, where they were trained, where they were tortured, where they lived. And it's ruins after the fire, but she reaches it, and she reaches the oasis there to try to give Aaron some water. If he does not get water soon, he will die. And she does, and her eyes get really damaged from all the sand and grit of enduring the sandstorm. So they spend some time there, but there's no food. They need to move on. And then in the desert, they face many other hardships. And Laura keeps clawing her way forward. No matter who's behind her, no matter what's in front of her, the little cockroach keeps going, and she's dragging Aaron along. He is not strong. He's not capable like he was in the first book. He's a broken man. Not only has he been damaged physically from not being able to move and really train at all, but he's also mentally just broken. And he's just mentally broken, and he doesn't like her. He hates her, but he loves her, and it's But I really, really love the ending. So obviously this is the biggest spoiler of all. But in the end, Laura agrees to fight with the Ithacanians, and then leave. But in the final battle, she arrives badly wounded and bleeding, and she manages to get onto one of the ships. Okay, and she manages to get onto one of the Moradrinian ships, and she kills her father. This sends Moradrina going, because there's a big storm coming anyway. He was the only reason they were staying there, and the Moradrinian ships flee, and Laura is chucked into the water. The water that is chummed by blood and bodies, and all around her, Moradrinian soldiers are being dragged into the depths by the Tempest sharks. And she keeps swimming. She's not a strong swimmer, but at least she knows how to now. And she nearly drowns. She nearly dies of blood loss. She nearly drowns before Aaron can save her. And all of this, the people of Ithacania are watching. They're watching their queen, their traitor queen, swimming among the sharks and not getting eaten. And then, after she wakes up, being unconscious for a few days, she hears about a legend that makes sense. This was set up in the first book. The Tempest sharks are supposed to be the guardians of Ithacana. And what do they do to traitors? They hang them waist deep in the water and then chum the waters. And then the sharks eat them. But legend says if someone is really true to Ithacana, then the sharks won't eat them. The Tempest sharks will leave them be, because they only eat those disloyal. And the whole island saw Laura swimming, bleeding from her ribs, bleeding from her leg, wounded in chumming waters, and the sharks just passed her by. A big shark knocks into her and keeps swimming. So all of the people, all the old traditionals, they cannot ignore this sign. The Tempest has decided. And so, in the end, they are willing to give Laura a second chance. And I love that ending. I love this ending. Because after the thousands and thousands of deaths that Laura caused, does she deserve a happily ever after? Yes, we know she's loyal to Ithacania. We saw her claw her way out. We saw her endure everything a human can endure, and probably a bit more. I don't think you would be able to run with like a cut like that. But this is like the perfect way to give her a second chance, because it's supernatural, it's unexplainable. She does not really deserve this. It doesn't really, the maths doesn't add up. Thousands and thousands of lives and their homes and their kingdom, or one girl who's really trying really hard. It doesn't really add up, but emotionally it does. So we need a reason emotionally for her to get the second chance that we feel like she deserves, because we've been through all the trouble with her. So I really like that ending. I really like that explanation. I like that the Ithacanians didn't just let her get off easy. She had to really prove herself, and she needed some supernatural help. So that is why I say this book just satisfied me. Okay, so let's get into the characters. So in the first book, I loved Aaron. He was the hero. He was the one who was in his element. He was showing off all his strengths. And Laura was deceptive and Weasley, and she was at a disadvantage most of the time. This wasn't her space. But now we see the little cockroach and her famed superpower. She survives. She keeps on fighting no matter what. And we didn't really get to see that much in the first book. It was mentioned, but here we really get to see her struggle beyond the point of belief. And the thing is, throughout this book, there's no point when Laura really thinks that she deserves forgiveness. She's not saving Aaron in the hopes that he'll take her back. No, she knows she's just going to get him to safety, and then she'll go. And then he asks her to stay and fight for Ithacana. And she says, yes, I'll stay and fight, but then I have to go. And she knows she has to go. She messed up. She caused the deaths of thousands of people, and if they won't have her, she has no right to force them to. She has no right to impose herself upon them. And I really respect that. I really respect her taking accountability for that mistake. It wasn't intentional. Her heart was in the right place in the end, and she was brainwashed, and she could have come up with so many excuses, but she messed up. And she's doing everything in her power to get it as close to right as she can. But she'll still take accountability, and she'll still walk away from this new home that she's found for herself. And I really, really respected that about her. So then let's talk about Aaron. Again, the roles are sort of swapped here. Emotionally, Laura had to go through a lot of introspection in the previous book, and here it's Aaron's turn. So we know from the start he still loves Laura. He says he hates her, he says he'll kill her himself. But then when they bring a woman tied up, about the right skin tone, about the right height as Laura, and they start torturing her, he can't see her face. He just hears her scream, and he says, "No, Laura," and he gives up some information about how to defeat Ithacana. And then when the bag is removed and he sees that that's not Laura, he's gutted, because at the one hand he wanted to see her, on the other hand he's relieved, on the other hand this is one of his friends actually, and she gets tortured anyway. But he doesn't give up any information. He only gives up information when he thinks it's Laura screaming. So we know he loves her, but he hates her. This woman, one of his best friends, is screaming because of Laura. His people are dying because of Laura. He has really good reason to hate her. And then she saves him. And he still hates her, and he still distrusts her. But now he kind of needs her help. And on the journey, with her clawing her way back, he finds it in his heart to forgive her. But he knows that Ithacana will never forgive her. And so he decides to put his kingdom ahead of his heart. He allows Laura to fight, but he knows that he'll have to say goodbye. He has to stay and be king of Ithacana, and he has to let Laura go, because she can never be its queen again. And then when the people finally accept her, when he saves her life with every intention of just banishing her again, and the people see that the sharks pass her by, the relief of her waking up and her being able to be his queen, and the way that they both fought for each other, and that they've and that they've really been through hell and high water for each other, and that Laura has sort of proven herself again and again. I really like that. And I like Aaron's struggle, even though he can be a bit grumpy at times. I do like the struggle that he has to go through. It's realistic. He doesn't just forgive her right away. She has caused a lot of harm, and that's important. And at the end, the two of them stand proud as the king and queen of Ithacana. Laura is not yet completely accepted, but she's been given a second chance, and it's pretty clear she's gonna be okay. So, as I said, this is the second book in a 4-part series. And they've kind of wrapped up these characters in a nice little bow. The other 2 books are going to be about different characters. About Laura's brother, who we met briefly, and then another general from Balcota, and their relationship, because they have some sort of a romance going on there. It's supposed to overlap in time with the end of the battle for Ithacana, and then going into the future. So, will I read the following books? I don't know. Like, usually if I love a series this much, I'm going to continue to the end, obviously. But I'm not too keen on these characters. They're definitely different. The woman is again sort of a warrior, whereas Laura's brother is a philosopher and a poet and a little bit of a different vibe. I don't know. They haven't hooked me in the same way. But as I said, Traitor Queen just came out this year September. So it's probably going to be a while before the next books. So we'll see what I do then. Thank you, Whiskers. And please let me know if you've read these books below. If you are halfway considering reading them, go for it. I love them and I need to not feel alone. Okay. Bye, Whiskers. Hello, Whiskers. Just a quick reminder of all the links down below. The Discord, please come and join me there. Instagram, you're always welcome. Goodreads is just a sneak peek of what I might review next. And if I find any other reviews for this book, I will also link them down below. I don't expect to find many since it's pretty new, but I will do a quick search and see what I can see and pick my favorites out of the selection, as I always do. Other than that, I hope you guys are less annoyed than I am that I cannot finish a sentence without looking at my notes at the end of a paragraph or something. Because I keep having to cut with my face like half turned away. And it's probably just me that notices this because I'm the one editing. But holy shit. Recording on Internet needs to get this together. I keep making this mistake. Okay. Bye bye, Whiskers.